What happens when one of Hollywood's most respected actresses faces off against a talk show host who refuses to back down from a controversial opinion? The tension in the studio was palpable from the moment Natalie Portman walked onto the View set. What started as a routine promotional interview quickly spiraled into one of the most explosive confrontations in daytime television history. Make sure to subscribe and drop a comment below, because this story will leave you speechless. It was supposed to be a simple appearance. Natalie Portman had come to promote her latest directorial project, a film exploring women's rights in authoritarian regimes. The other hosts were warm and welcoming, asking thoughtful questions about her creative process and the film's powerful message. But Joy Behar had other plans. "So, Natalie," Joy began with a smirk that the cameras caught perfectly, "your new movie is quite political. Some might say, you're using your platform to push a very specific agenda. Rove. Rove." Natalie shifted slightly in her chair, maintaining her composure. "I think telling stories about human rights isn't political, Joy. It's about basic human dignity." "But come on," Joy pressed, leaning forward aggressively. "You're clearly targeting certain groups with this film. Don't you think celebrities should stay in their lane instead of lecturing the rest of us about politics?" The other hosts exchanged uncomfortable glances. Whoopi cleared her throat, trying to redirect the conversation. But Joy wasn't finished. "I mean," Joy continued, her voice getting sharper, "what qualifies you to make a film about authoritarianism? You've lived in Hollywood your entire adult life, surrounded by people who think exactly like you do." Natalie's jaw tightened, but she kept her voice steady. "I studied psychology at Harvard, Joy. I've traveled extensively, worked with human rights organizations, and spent years researching this subject. But more importantly, I believe art should challenge people to think." "Oh, please," Joy scoffed, rolling her eyes dramatically. "The Harvard card again. You went to college for a few years, and now you think you understand the world better than everyone else?" The audience began to murmur. This wasn't the usual spirited debate The View was known for. This felt personal, mean-spirited. Sunny Hostin tried to intervene. "Joy, maybe we should focus on the actual film and its artistic merits." But Joy waved her off. No, I think this is important. Natalie, don't you think it's a bit hypocritical for someone who's made millions playing dress-up to lecture working-class Americans about their political choices?" Natalie's composure finally cracked slightly. "Excuse me? Playing dress-up? I've been acting professionally since I was 12 years old. Enden to este, enden to escard. We were mentry, enden to escard. Problem, enden to escard, enden to escard. I've worked with some of the most respected directors in cinema history. To reduce my career to playing dress-up is not just disrespectful to me, but to every working actor." "Oh, so now you're offended?" Joy laughed mockingly. "You can dish it out in your movies, but you can't take a little honest criticism?" "Honest criticism would be discussing the film's themes or execution." Natalie shot back, her voice rising slightly. "What you're doing is launching personal attacks because you disagree with my perspective." Joy's eyes lit up. She sensed she was getting under Natalie's skin and decided to push harder. "Your perspective? You mean your privileged, out-of-touch perspective? Tell me, when was the last time you worried about paying rent or putting food on the table?" The studio fell silent except for the hum of cameras. Even the crew members looked uncomfortable. Natalie took a deep breath, clearly trying to regain her composure. "My background doesn't invalidate my right to create art or speak about issues I care about. And frankly, Joy, your attempts to silence me because of my success says more about you than it does about me." "Silence you?" Joy's voice became shrill. "You're on national television. How am I silencing you? I'm just asking you to acknowledge that maybe, just maybe, you don't speak for everyone." I never claim to speak for everyone, Natalie replied firmly. But I do have a right to use my platform responsibly, which is what I'm trying to do. Joy slammed her hand on the table, making everyone jump. Responsibly? You call making a movie that demonizes half the country responsible? The film doesn't demonize anyone, Natalie said, her voice getting stronger. It tells a story about what happens when people give up their freedoms for the promise of security. If you see yourself in the antagonists, maybe you should ask why. The audience gasped. Joy's face turned red with anger. How dare you? Joy seethed, pointing her finger directly at Natalie. How dare you sit there and imply that I'm some kind of fascist because I disagree with your little art project? Natalie remained calm despite Joy's outburst. I didn't call you anything, Joy. I simply said that if the shoe fits, perhaps you should examine why. Joy's outburst. Oh, you think you're so clever with your little word games, Joy spat. This is exactly what's wrong with Hollywood elites like you. You think you're smarter than everyone else. Sarah Haynes finally spoke up, her voice shaky. Maybe we should take a commercial break and cool down a bit. No, Joy snapped without taking her eyes off Natalie. I want to finish this conversation. Natalie, let me ask you something. Do you think the millions of Americans who disagree with your politics are just stupid? Natalie's eyes flashed with anger, but her voice remained controlled. I think people have a right to their opinions, Joy. But I also think people have a responsibility to examine where those opinions come from and whether they're based on facts or fear. Facts or fear. Joy's voice cracked with indignation. So, anyone who doesn't agree with your worldview is operating from fear? That's incredibly condescending. What's condescending? Natalie replied, her patience clearly wearing thin. Is assuming that because someone is an actor, they can't have informed opinions about the world they live in. Joy laughed bitterly. Informed opinions? You live in a bubble, sweetheart. You have no idea what real people go through. The word sweetheart hung in the air like a slap. The other hosts looked mortified. Even the usually unflappable Whoopi looked stunned by Joy's tone. Natalie's eyes narrowed. Did you just call me sweetheart in a professional setting while trying to lecture me about my credibility? Oh, are you going to play the victim now? Joy shot back. Add sexism to your list of complaints? I'm not playing anything, Natalie said, her voice getting colder. I'm pointing out that your behavior right now is proving every point my film makes about how people in power try to diminish those who challenge them. Joy's face contorted with rage. People in power? I'm not in power. I'm a comedian who happened to get a job on a talk show. You have a platform that reaches millions of people, Natalie countered. You use that platform to influence public opinion. That's power, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. And you don't? Joy screamed, completely losing her composure now. You don't think starring in blockbuster movies gives you power? You don't think having millions of followers gives you influence? Of course it does, Natalie said matter-of-factly. The difference is, I'm trying to use that influence responsibly. 1. Responsibly? Joy was practically foaming at the mouth now. You call attacking traditional values responsible? I'm not attacking anything, Natalie replied, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. I'm asking questions. I'm encouraging people to think critically about the world around them. If that threatens you, maybe you should ask yourself why. Joy stood up abruptly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. You know what? I'm sick of your sanctimonious attitude. You come on our show, act like you're better than everyone, and then have the nerve to psychoanalyze me on live television. Natalie remained seated, looking up at Joy with a mixture of pity and disgust. I never said I was better than anyone, Joy. But I do believe in treating people with respect, even when we disagree. Something you seem incapable of doing. Respect? Joy's voice cracked. You want to talk about respect? You've been condescending to me since the moment you sat down. I've been defending myself against your unprovoked attacks, Natalie shot back, her composure finally beginning to crack. From the moment I walked out here, you've been trying to bait me into an argument, instead of having an actual conversation about my work. Your work? Joy laughed maniacally. Your work is propaganda, disguised as entertainment. The audience began to boo, but it wasn't clear if they were booing Joy or Natalie. The other hosts sat frozen, unsure how to intervene in what had become a complete meltdown. Natalie stood up slowly, her movements deliberate and controlled. You know what, Joy? You've made it very clear that you have no interest in having an intelligent discussion. You're more interested in creating drama for ratings. Don't you walk away from me, Joy demanded, her voice shrill and desperate. We're not finished here. Actually, we are, Natalie said calmly, beginning to remove her microphone. You don't get to just walk away, Joy screamed, her voice echoing through the studio. This is my show. This is my show. Natalie paused, her hand still on her microphone. She turned back to face Joy with a look of complete disdain. Your show? Last time I checked, this was called The View, not the Joy Behar Hour. The other hosts exchanged panicked glances. Whoopi finally found her voice. Joy, please, let's all just take a step back here. But Joy was beyond reason now. No, Whoopi. I'm tired of these Hollywood types coming on here and thinking they can lecture us about how to live our lives. I never lectured anyone about how to live their lives, Natalie said, her voice cutting through Joy's hysteria like ice. I made a film. If that threatens you so much that you feel the need to personally attack me on national television, then maybe you should consider what that says about your own insecurities. Joy's mouth fell open. My insecurities? You're calling me insecure? I'm calling you unprofessional, Natalie replied coldly. I'm calling you a bully. And frankly, I'm calling you exactly the kind of person my film warns about. The studio erupted in gasps and scattered applause. Joy looked like she'd been slapped. How dare you? Joy shrieked, her voice reaching a pitch that made everyone wince. How dare you come into my house and insult me? This isn't your house, Joy, Natalie said with devastating calm. This is a television studio where you're supposed to be a professional interviewer. Instead, you've spent the last 15 minutes having a public meltdown because someone made a movie that challenges your worldview. Sunny Hostin tried desperately to regain control. Ladies, please, we need to remember that we're live on television. Oh, I'm very aware we're live, Natalie said, never taking her eyes off Joy. I want everyone watching to see exactly how someone reacts when their ideas are challenged. This is a perfect example of what happens when people can't handle having their beliefs questioned. Joy was trembling with rage now. You sanctimonious little brat. You think your Harvard degree makes you special? You think your Oscar nominations give you the right to look down on me? I don't look down on you because of your education or your awards, Joy, Natalie replied. I look down on you because of your behavior. Right now, you're acting like a petulant child who can't handle being disagreed with. The audience was completely silent now, hanging on every word. The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Joy pointed a shaking finger at Natalie. You know what your problem is? You live in a fantasy world where everyone thinks like you do. You have no idea what real Americans want. Real Americans? Natalie's eyebrows shot up. Are you implying I'm not a real American because I disagree with you? I was born in Jerusalem, Joy. But I've been an American citizen my entire life. I've worked harder than most people will ever work. And I've used my success to try to make the world a better place. If that disqualifies me from being a real American in your eyes, then your definition of America is pretty narrow. Joy's face turned purple. Don't you dare question my patriotism. I'm not questioning your patriotism, Natalie said with laser focus. I'm questioning your professionalism, your maturity, and your ability to have a civilized conversation with someone who sees the world differently than you do. That's enough, Joy screamed, standing up and slamming both hands on the table. I don't have to sit here and take this abuse. Natalie looked at her with complete incredulity. Abuse? Joy. You've spent the last 20 minutes personally attacking me, questioning my intelligence, dismissing my career, and trying to silence me because you disagree with a movie I made. If anyone's being abused here, it's me. Sarah Haynes was openly crying now, completely overwhelmed by the hostility. Whoopi looked like she wanted to disappear into her chair. You started this, Joy accused wildly. You came on here with your holier-than-thou attitude. I came on here to talk about a film, Natalie said, her voice deadly quiet. You turned it into a character assassination because you couldn't handle the fact that someone made art that challenges your political views. This entire meltdown is on you, Joy. Own it. Joy's voice became even more shrill. I don't have to own anything. You're the one who made a movie attacking everything I believe in. I made a movie about authoritarianism, Natalie said slowly, as if explaining something to a child. If you see yourself in the villains of that story, that's not my fault. That's your conscience talking. My conscience? Joy was practically hyperventilating now. You don't know anything about my conscience. I know enough, Natalie said with finality. She turned to the cameras, speaking directly to the audience. This is what my film is about. This is what happens when people can't handle having their ideas challenged. They resort to personal attacks, they try to silence opposition, and they have public meltdowns when someone refuses to back down. Joy lunged forward slightly, her face contorted with rage. Don't you turn this into some kind of teaching moment. This is about your arrogance. No, Joy, Natalie said, completely removing her microphone and setting it on the table. This is about your inability to have an adult conversation. I came here to discuss my work in good faith. You turned it into a circus because you can't handle the fact that not everyone sees the world through your narrow lens. She stood up gracefully, smoothing down her dress. I have better things to do than listen to someone have a public breakdown because they disagree with a movie. Joy was practically foaming at the mouth. You can't just leave. We're in the middle of an interview. No, Natalie said, walking toward the edge of the set. We're in the middle of you having a tantrum. I don't participate in tantrums. Come back here, Joy screamed, her voice cracking. You coward. You can't handle the heat. Natalie stopped at the edge of the set and turned back one last time. Joy, the only heat here is coming from your own embarrassment at how you've behaved today. When you're ready to have an actual conversation like a professional adult, you know where to find me. With that, she walked off the set, leaving Joy standing there trembling with rage, the other hosts sitting in stunned silence, and an audience that didn't know whether to applaud or call security. Joy stood there for a moment, breathing heavily, before finally collapsing back into her chair. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every second of what would become the most talked-about moment in daytime television history. The silence that followed was deafening. No one knew what to say. No one knew how to process what they had just witnessed. It was raw. It was real. And it was absolutely unforgettable. What did you think of this incredible confrontation? Have you ever seen anything like this on daytime television before? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and make sure to subscribe for more explosive celebrity moments that you won't see anywhere else.